Hey, voice memo for later. We're here. We're at the library. If I sound like I'm like talking quieter, I probably am because I'm in a study room and I don't think anyone can probably hear me outside of this room very well. But I have been known to be a loud person. So I'm going to try to talk a little softer. We're going to be a radio guy today. I'm going to be a radio guy. A radio DJ. Is that it? I'm going to be for smooth jazz. Nah, I don't have the voice for that. You can probably hear it in my voice, actually, that I had COVID. I'm just getting over it now. Today's day 5 or whatever, so I'm allowed out of my house for anyone who's like, you can't do that. You get in the library, you can't, yeah, I can, right? It's day 5. Actually, it's like day 6, technically. Yeah, I had to miss an open mic. That was no fun, but I'll be back to the next one tomorrow at Lucky Cat. That's gonna be a good time. I tried a new open mic last week. That was kind of the moment of the week, the highlight, I guess, if you will, or the interesting factoid about the week. I tried this new open mic actually in Cedar Rapids. I got 2 of them now that I can do in Cedar Rapids. And what's really cool actually is this one is on Thursdays, which is when the better of the 2 joystick mics is in Iowa City. So what I did, and what I'm going to probably continue to do, is you just hit them both up, I just did the mic in Cedar Rapids, and then I went on to joystick in Iowa City and did my thing there. Dude, it's such a weird experience. Cause an open mic they're all kind of the same a little bit. And you guys can't see it because there's no video feed, but I'm going to be talking with my hands a lot right now because I'm using a mic stand, which I don't usually do, but I'm in the library, I'm in the study room. There's like this nice table and everything, right? It's like, I may as well, right? You don't need to hear my hand like, or whatever. Well, wait, I can just mimic it. Yeah, that sound. Let me grabbing. Yeah, I don't need to mimic it. I can just do the sound. But yeah, that sound, you don't need to hear that sound. So I'll try to do that more often, by the way, with the podcast. I should try to use these mic stands more often. I'm so used to, I think with a mic in my hand, you know what I mean? I think that's how I think, but I'm trying to break that. Cause I don't think I should need a mic in my hands. Maybe I should challenge myself to like start doing more open mics with like not taking the mic out of the stand or something. I see some comics do that. Donnie Townsend, I see he does that a lot. He just leaves the mic in the mic stand for his whole act. And he'll just like, just an entire set of just not like, he basically doesn't touch the mic. And he'll just like lean the mic stand in towards him and he'll say another weird thing. Like, I've been collecting chairs recently outside my house. Yeah. And he'll just take another sip of his drink. I don't know. That's my best Donnie Townsend, I guess. He's just a weirdo, little ferrety, just weird guy. I don't know. He reminds me of, like, if those guys that like you see at a coffee shop and you're like, you don't belong here. You probably belong in like a crack house instead. He's like one of those guys. But yeah, no, he'll just like hold the mic stand and just like lean it in and he's got a drink in his hand. He'll set the drink down and he'll say, I don't know. It's a weird sort of way of being, it's a weird stage presence, but I don't hate it, but I don't know. I'm a mic guy for sure. I like holding the mic, in my hand. But I did actually have, a show not too long ago. Actually, that's where I heard about this open mic. Shout out Colin Strayjack. Oh, damn it. This would be a great time to plug his podcast. He has a podcast too, I think. Yeah, he definitely does, right? I've never done it before, so I don't know. But I'm pretty sure, yeah, sorry, Colin. I was going to plug your podcast just there. But I don't remember what you said it's called. So wait a minute. Hold on a second. I can do the research. I have the internet at my fingertips. I promise I'm going to finish talking about this open mic. For sure, we're going to get to that. Okay. Let's see. Do you mention it on your Facebook, Colin? If I look you up on Facebook, am I going to see something about, oh, wait a minute. Is that, I see a mic. It looks like this could be you doing your podcast. Oh yeah, that's it right there. Oh, that's right. I remember it now. I recognize it when I see it. Modern Day Overthinker. Okay. Yeah. Check out Colin's podcast, Modern Day Overthinker. Actually, I haven't checked it out myself yet. So I'm for sure going to check that out as well. I'm just going to go on Spotify right now and try to find it. Modern Day Overthinker. That's got to be it right here. Unless there's another person with the same name of podcast, which is possible, but probably not. Yeah, Quad Cities. All I had to do was I see Quad Cities and there, Davenport, Iowa. Some mention of some local spots, some local comics. Yeah, of course. That would be his then. Ben Woodfield, old Benny boy. He was a guest on there apparently. Nice. We had Ben on our podcast. You hear what I just did there? I just said our podcast because it's me and the audience. You guys are in it with me. It's our podcast. Yeah, anyway, check out Modern Day Overthinker. I'm going to check it out too. I'm going to follow it right now on Spotify. Okay. Yeah, but yeah, shout out Colin Strayjack. He pointed out this mic to me. He was like, hey, you heard about this mic, this new mic at the event center or whatever? I'm like, what are you talking about? And so apparently, gosh, I'm going to blank on the name of the guy that runs it. Well, yeah, anyway, it's at this event center, the classic event center. So it's just down the street from my house, basically over by a grocery store that I use. And it's just in a strip mall. It's like an event center in a strip mall. But yeah, you go in there and it's like a wedding reception, hall. But they're doing an open mic there now on Thursdays because I guess they approached the owners and they're like, hey, you want to sell drinks and make money on Thursdays? Cause they normally were closed, I guess. And they're like, hell yeah. And so they started doing this open mic there. But they had a DJ. It was so weird, dude. It was so over the top. There's this giant stage. We're in this big hall. There's all these tables and chairs. There's this big stage and they have a wireless mic. Okay. That was the coolest shit ever. All right. I'm spoiled now. I just want to use wireless mics now. That shit is awesome. Not having to worry about whipping the cord around the mic stand because it's spun around a couple times and you're like, what the fuck was the last guy doing here? And you're trying to whip it around, get it out of the way. Come on, man. Yeah, wireless mic. You don't have to worry about any of that. It was just awesome. It was the best mic I've ever used. And although I will say it sounded weird. It's weird hearing yourself in a room that big. It's strange, dude. Cause I'm so used to hearing myself projected out into this small room. So it's it seems manageable, right? But this is this hall. So it's it's a lot more similar, I would imagine, and not exactly the same, but it's probably a lot more similar to either a really big club or maybe even a small theater. As far as how big the room is or whatever, it's pretty big. It's not as big as a theater. That's an exaggeration, but it's still really big. So it just sounds different. Your voice sounds different coming out of, the sound system in a room that big. It sounds almost reverb-y kind of, but not really. I'm just going into all this detail trying to describe you got to hear how your voice sounds in this room. What are you talking about, dude? Anywho, yeah, it was strange. They had a DJ. I came up so they brought me up. The host gets all, jazzed up and he's trying to get the crowd into all right, you ready for your next comic? Yeah. Whatever his introduction was, I don't remember what he said. He's like, Zach Metzler. And the crowd goes wild and they're brought up on stage to the DJ playing Back in Black by AC/DC. It was so, dude, it's so fucking weird. They were doing it like a show, which is kind of cool. I can dig it, it's pretty fun. But yeah, I'll be back there this next Thursday as well. So hey, check it, come out and check me out. Come out it's free, open mics generally are, at least in this area, they're free usually. So yeah, the Classic Event Center in Cedar Rapids coming out on Thursday. Well, for that matter, let me just plug all the rest of my dates. No, those are all open mics, but I do have a date coming up, for a real show on this Friday, upcoming, which you wouldn't know necessarily when that is, because you're like, I don't know when this was recorded. This is Monday, April 24th right now. And so on this Friday, April 28th, I'm hosting the Late Night Bits show, and that is at Deadwood in Iowa City. It's part of the Floodwater Comedy Festival. So that one is not free. It is a show. So you're going to have to buy some tickets, but you can get some tickets to Floodwater Comedy Fest. I think it's just floodwatercomedyfest.com is the website, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, you can buy tickets there. Yeah, dude, come out and see it. But yeah, it was such a weird mic. It went pretty well though. The set went reasonably well. Lots of different types of people in that crowd. There was like literally high schoolers up front. I think they're related to one of the dudes putting this on, or something, or like it's like a son and his friends situation, right? It's like it's someone's kid and then his friends, and they're all like high schoolers. So they're like sitting up front with these literal high schoolers. And then, and if you're a high schooler, by the way, no offense, I'm not laughing because like, wow, high school. No, I'm just like, it's just weird. Like I'm not used to that at a mic or at any comedy, anything. You don't usually see high schoolers, right? Because usually, 21 and older kind of crowd, because it's a bar or comedy club or whatever. You don't usually see this, but since technically this is like not a bar or anything like that, it's just like it's like an event center. And it's like, then they can be there. So yeah, high schoolers. And then you got, there was like some older people, and then like middle-aged people, and like, I don't know, it was mostly an older crowd, but then there was high schoolers, older people, and then literal high schoolers. But it was fun. It was a fun time. I will be back for sure. But yeah, man, I had the vid, for the second time ever. I'm am over that essentially. Yeah, my wife has it harder than me. She's still like battling that thing. It's like, she is hating it. I'm hating it for her too. It sucks. So I've been running the whole show at home, doing all the dishes and the laundry, and not that I don't normally do those things at all, but like it's, I've been doing extra because, yeah. So that's fun. That's super fun. Damn, I didn't really have a lot planned to talk about here today. I haven't been thinking much today. You ever have that? You just have a day where you're just like, I don't know, didn't really think much, just kind of consumed content and did work. I worked my 9 to 5 and I listened to like a podcast and just did stuff like without thinking. I didn't spend a lot of time reflecting today. I am going to try a new joke writing strategy, a new method, if you will. It's something I've heard of before, but I forgot about until just recently, and I'm kind of excited to see what I can come up with. So it's basically, there's different ways you can write jokes, right? But a lot of people will think of like a premise first, and then like maybe like one funny line to say about it, not necessarily like the punchline, but like just a line maybe, right? This is usually what I do, is I'll think of like a topic, and I'll think of like a premise that goes with that topic, and I'll just kind of like, it's just a funny idea will occur to me. Either something happened to me, or it's just like something I'm thinking about, and then I'll kind of flesh out like, well, what do I think about this, right? I'll just kind of think like, what would I say? And I just think of it with a funny frame of mind. That sounds really dumb to say, but you know what I mean? It's just like, I think about it like a comedian. I apply my comedian brain and I say, okay, what's funny about this? Like, what are the funny angles to this? And I just think of, and whatever I think of to say, it's just like, any normal person, if you're not a comic, and you could do this, right? You can think of like a topic, and then you think of a premise. A premise is just basically an angle on a topic, kind of, right? So it's like, if the topic is like graduation, then like a premise could be like, people that graduate from high school, kids that graduate from high school, always have shitty food at their parties, but I show up to eat it anyway because I'm a fat ass. I don't know. That's just like, just a dumb premise that I came up with literally in the moment with no thought. That's just the first thing I could try to think of. But that's if you don't know what a premise is, that's what a premise is. It's basically just an angle on a subject. Like it's like a talking point almost, or a point of view, whatever, And so that's normally what I do is I'll think of a premise basically, and then I'll just kind of riff on that in my head. And then eventually if once I come up with like a couple things to say about it, usually that's when it's ready to like try it on stage. And so I'll just like do it. I'll kind of get into it somehow, transition into it, however I thought of ahead of time. And then I'll kind of like go through the couple things that I was going to say about it ahead of time, planned, right? But then I'll kind of in the moment, I'll kind of just feel it out. I'll see how people are reacting to it. And sometimes I'll think of another thing in the moment, like off the cuff to say, or like a way to say it differently maybe. And I'll just try it and I'll see how it goes. And, and then you just keep doing that and you repeat over and over, as long as it's going somewhat well, right? If you're bombing every single time, sometimes I'll just scrap that and be like, I don't really care. I'm not motivated to figure that out. Or sometimes I'll just I'll put it aside till later. I'll be like, I don't know. I can't really figure this out right now. But if it is going well, right? If the audience is responding well most of the time, or at least reasonably well, I'm like, okay, well, how do I make this better? And so you just try to think of like a funnier way to say each thing, or you add tags to it, right? A tag is, this is like comedy 101 right now. A tag, if you don't know what that is, it's like it's like an extra punchline, right? So you hit the punchline. Maybe the punchline is like, and so that's why I don't sit on four-legged chairs anymore or something. I don't know. I don't know what that would be a punchline to, right? But like, say that's the punchline, like, and so that's why I don't sit on four-legged chairs anymore. As opposed to three-legged, I don't know. That's why it works. I have no idea. I don't know what that goes to. It's just a punchline. It's just a random line. But let's say if that's the punchline, then you could add a tag, and a tag is like an extra punchline. It's just like another thing that once you've gotten the punchline gets you there to like the funny moment, right? The big moment where everyone laughs if it works. And then the tag is just like, you're just adding on to it, right? So if think about it this way, if a punchline is a literal punch to the face, right? You manage to hit this big punch to someone's face if you're like in a fight, right? Then a tag would be like, after that you kick them in the balls, it's like, or after that you knee them in the stomach. That's comedy. But yeah, no, that's what that is. So yeah, I don't know. You might think of a tag to that, like, so the punchline, so that's why I don't sit on four-legged chairs anymore. And then a tag might be, I don't know, especially ones with bad upholstery. I don't know. This isn't working because there's no setup. There's no thought about what this even is. It's just an isolated pairing of words in the English language, just no context. But that actually leads me to what I was going to say though, is like, I want to try another style. And this other style is, you think of punchlines ahead of time. Like you think of a punchline first, and then you figure out how to get there. So actually, unironically, I could use what I just said there, and that's why I don't sit on four-legged chairs anymore. That could be a punchline, right? Without a setup of any kind, it's just nothing, right? It's not funny. It doesn't mean anything. But if you were to figure out a setup to get there in which it makes sense, then you could have like a funny joke that works, and that could be the punchline, right? So it's just like a really creative, like weird way to like a reverse way of looking at a joke, where like instead of figuring out, okay, what's what's my angle, what am I talking about here, what's the premise, and then you try to figure out like the funny things about it, and then you're like, oh, okay, and then there's my punchline right there. It's literally just reversing it. You're like, okay, let me think of an out of context just punchline, just something that would be funny to say out loud. And the thing that's kind of exciting to me about this, that I'm looking forward to like trying out with it, is like, you could probably get some really outside the box, different types of jokes that you wouldn't normally tell. And it's the fun part too, is like you get to look forward to this specific punchline. And it probably, I bet it feels really good when you make it work, because it's like this weird reverse puzzle thing where you're like, okay, you're just picking a thing. You're like, I want to say this in a microphone. I want to say this, again, if we go back to my example of, and that's why I don't sit on 4-legged chairs anymore. I just, you just pick that and you're like, I just want to say this to an audience in a microphone and make them laugh with it. It's like, okay, well, how am I going to do that? I don't know. Let's figure it out, right? How could that make sense? That's almost the first step, I suppose, right? It's like, how can that even be a response that makes any sense to something? But then furthermore, it's like, well, okay, how can I make that funny? Like what is the setup that makes that a punchline? It's like this weird like equation. It's like you're doing algebra. You're finding X, and X is the setup. And it's like, okay, well, here's all these numbers. Here's the punchline, I guess, is 1,471.3. Okay, well, what, and then you have this equation. It's like, figure out X to find, you get it. You guys know what algebra is, right? I hope you do. Dude, it's 2023. If you don't know what algebra is, what are you even doing? Don't they probably teach that in kindergarten now? Like, this is some old, simple shit. This is some simple math shit. Oh, man. I didn't mind algebra. Algebra was kind of entertaining because it's a puzzle. I like solving puzzles. As many of you who know me might know, with like solving the Rubik's Cube and stuff like that. I like doing, and I actually like just like jigsaw puzzles too are kind of fun. I sometimes have fun with that. We'll go out to my parents' place and they always have downstairs, which is my grandma's house technically. My grandma lives with my parents in the downstairs is her place, right? But downstairs at a table, they always have like a jigsaw puzzle that they're currently working on. And so sometimes it's fun to like sit down with a cup of coffee and just like kind of try to solve some pieces, put a few pieces in there. Yeah, man, jigsaw puzzles are, they're pretty cool. Well, yeah, like I said, I didn't really have too much prepared today. Well, I literally had nothing prepared, actually. When I was driving over here, I was like, what do you want to talk about? I was like, I don't know, dude. But this is part of doing a podcast sometimes. You're trying to... I use this, honestly, as a way to think through things. And it can be fun to do that with a person, right? You'd have a conversation or you could do a conversation with a person on a podcast. But even when I don't have anyone lined up to do a guest on here, it feels worth it to me just to talk out loud. And I think that like talking out loud, even if it's it's the fact that it's going to go out there, right? It's like, I know that this is going to live on the internet and people have access to it, whether or not they're actually listening to it or not, or how many people, whatever, like that's a whole other thing. But the fact that it's out there, that any person in the world could go on Spotify, and I don't know why they would do this, but they would I wonder if there's a podcast called Voice Memo for later. Oh, wow, there is. Let me listen to this. Nobody would do that, but you could, right? Or, I mean, obviously that's not how someone would probably figure, they would probably hear about it, or they would there's not really is there a discover algorithm on Spotify? Can you just kind of browse in any meaningful way? I mean, if I go to podcasts and shows, that's just filtering in my library. Okay. So I'd have to go to search maybe. Oh yeah. And then browse all podcasts. So, okay, you can just browse podcasts. So there's new releases, episodes you won't. Yeah, so there's definitely some sort of algorithms but you can do categories. Okay. So if I were to do, and there's a comedy category, of course. I mean, hell, comedians practically invented the podcast. I swear to God, this is basically where it came from, and then people just jumped on board. But yeah, comedy pods. I like how they're saying pods. Comedy pods only on Spotify, and there's some of those. What? I guess I was gonna say they have Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard. I don't know if I'd call that a comedy podcast. I mean, it's done by like two people that like to say funny things and be funny, and like one of them is like a comedic actor. So it's like, okay, sure. I still don't know if I'd call that a comedy podcast technically, but it's a good podcast. I haven't listened to it in a long time, but it's fun. Smartless, Jason Bateman and the crew. Yeah, that's a pretty good one as well. I haven't listened to it in a long time. This past weekend, Theo Vaughn, Gang, if you know, you know. Yeah, and of course Your Mom's House and Two Bears One Cave, all that, all the good comedy podcasts are on there. Obviously Joe Rogan. I like imagining that there's some like Joe Rogan stans out there that are like hyped on Joe Rogan. Like, not that I'm not, I still listen to it. I haven't listened to it that much recently. Well, the most recent one I listened to was with Sam Talent, because he was coming to Lucky Cat, and I hadn't really, I didn't really know much about him. And I was like, let me, I know he's on Rogan. I'd heard he was on Rogan. Let me like check it out and see what this guy's about. But yeah, no, I like imagining that there's like some like hardcore Rogan fans that are listening to this, and they're like just going nuts because I'm listing all these like different podcasts under the comedy podcast category on here, and not mentioning the Spotify exclusive, like super duper popular, Joe Rogan Experience. It's like, no, it's there. That's the obvious one. I'm scrolling through looking at the other ones. Call Her Daddy. That one is weird. Interesting though. It's, I don't know, some girls and they talk about dirty sex shit and whatever, and it's kind of funny and interesting, I guess, at times. I don't know. I've listened to a couple episodes before. It's okay. I haven't listened in a long time. I've probably only listened to like 3 episodes ever, probably, when I was just like browsing, trying to find other podcasts to check out. Uncle Joey's Joint with Joey Diaz. Hell yeah. This is the podcast now. I'm scrolling through Spotify and I'm like, hey, here's all these other podcasts that actually are interesting that you could listen to instead of this one. Any one of those you could have just clicked off and been like, you know what? I'm going to check out that one. Fuck this thing. And literally hit pause and just, oh man. Dude, if you're still listening to me right now, you are a trooper. Or you're just fucking stupid. What are you doing? I don't know why you'd waste your time, dude. Oh man. Yeah, this study room, you're supposed to present a card, like a library card. Well, you don't have to present it. It's got they have like a tablet in here, and you like enter in your number. It's when I walked in here and I was like, I don't know how to like do this. And like, of course it asks for your library card number. I'm like, oh shit. Yeah, fuck. I don't even know like where my library card is. It's somewhere deep in my wallet. Maybe, I hope. Like, I think I have one, don't I? I'm pretty sure I have one. I just, haven't used it or been here in a long time, in years. And so I was like, well, let me go look through my wallet, see if I have it. Hopefully I do. And then I realized, oh, I didn't bring my wallet with me at all. I just don't have my wallet with me. So even if it is in there, I don't have my wallet. So I definitely don't have my library card. So I just walked up to the lady working at the I was going to say computer, and then I was going to say terminal, and I was going to say, well, that's weird. That's like a really old school way of saying a computer, and I couldn't make up my mind. I'm going to say, I'm going to say terminal. Fuck you guys. She was working at the terminal out there, and I went up and was like, yeah, so I want to go into one of the study rooms, but like, I don't have my wallet, so I don't have my library card with me, I guess. And, can I like get into one anyway? Is that, I'm hoping that she's just going to be like, yeah, of course. Like, cause there's nobody here really, right? There's like, I mean, there are some people in the library right now, right? But like, it's very dead right now. I mean, it's later on in the day, they close in like a couple hours from now. So it's like, yeah, they're not, this is probably not prime time, right? And like literally all the study rooms, like every single one of them I'm walking by, they're all like lights off, doors open, right? Nobody's in any of them. So I'm just like, it would be a real dick move to be like, no, you can't use it. But thankfully she was not that way. Shout out to Cedar Rapids Public Library. She was cool about it. She was like, well, actually she tried to look me up, and then I was like by my name. So I gave her my name and she looked it up and she couldn't find it, which could mean I just don't have a library card. Like I just thought I made one I thought I got one at one point, but and like maybe the truth is I was thinking about getting one and never did. I don't know. Or I did make one and she was saying, well, also my computer is being weird and maybe I entered it in wrong. She's like, it's fine. Just use it. I'm like, all right, cool. So here we are and I'm using it, but I'll definitely next time I'll bring my wallet, and actually probably when I get home, I'll just go ahead and look for the card. I do think I have one, but, man, this podcast is incredible right now. I'm just through sheer will. I'm just continuing to just talk like, well, I want to keep doing this podcast, but I don't really have anything to say, but that's okay. I'll just keep thinking of things to say. Yeah, no, vocal fry. Yeah, I'm just like turning into Karen Sanchez Dougal. Karen Sanchez Dougal is the full name. Got to include the married name in there. Shout out to Connor. Connor, that's her husband, Connor. Shout out Connor. Got to get your name in there, Dougal. You got to throw that in there, Yeah. All right, we're going to end this. Who am I kidding? We're half an hour in and I'm already just like, and I don't know what else to say, so I'm just going to think of things to say. Look, man, this is a commitment, right? I took several weeks off too, so it's like, I feel shitty about not having episodes coming out. I'm going to try to do like an actual guest episode again sometime soon. Part of me wants to not though, because part of me is like, you know what? No, this is how but there'll be plenty of time to do more of these, but I'm just like, this is how you get good at podcasting is you just grind out all these really shitty ones, right? You just talk to yourself over and over and you put out all these bad ones and then eventually they start getting like, okay. And then eventually you could get good at it. And then you don't even need guests. You just do a podcast. You don't need anybody, right? That's kind of a cool thought, is like relying on nobody. Honestly, that's how probably part of the reason I ended up in comedy is like, I don't like dealing with people, I like collaborating with people, but I hate having to collaborate with people. Does that make any sense? I like the creative process of like talking with another person and figuring stuff out and whatever. Like that, and I like talking to people. Like sometimes that's fun. If it's somebody I enjoy talking to, obviously. But I hate having to rely on other people because you can't rely on people, right? It's like there was at one point in my life, I thought I wanted to like, early on, this is like early, like before I went to college at all. Like I was still in high school and I was getting ready to like go to school. I was already going to a high school, but literally I was a literal high schooler. That's what you call a callback, by the way. Let's continue the comedy 101 thing. That's a callback. I'm calling back to when I was saying there were literal high schoolers at this open mic. Yeah. No, but I was getting ready to go to college and I'm like, well, what do I want to do? And I thought I wanted to be a film director. And I mean like science fiction, fantasy, like those types of films, like big, epic, big budget, like crazy. Like I wanted to get into that world, right? Or even if I wasn't going to get fully into like science fiction and fantasy, like maybe some sort of artsy, weird movie. I was into those too. It's just anything. I just wanted to direct films. But then I was like, well, film school is expensive as hell and I'll have to move out of state somewhere, which will make it even more expensive because that'll be out of state tuition and all this stuff. So eventually I'm just like, well, let me start at like a local community college, right? Let me just go to this community college and I'll like get into like communications media and I'll have hands-on experience like dealing with cameras and doing stuff, which I did. It was actually, shout out Kirkwood. It was actually, a pretty interesting education. And I got to like get a lot more experience with like, using video editors, like Final Cut Pro is what we were using, which at the time was like the industry standard. I actually don't think it is anymore. I think I've heard that like, it's like Avid, Final Cut Pro, and of course Adobe Premiere. I think Premiere overtook Final Cut Pro at one point. I think more people use Premiere now. But I think it depends on the industry that you're in. Like, Hollywood is different than like other industries that use video editors, right? That's like they might have a different one that they gravitate towards or whatever. Anyway, it's all, honestly, I don't really know at that point, like you're just basically picking between like some of the best video editors that exist. And you're like, well, I don't know, I like this one better. It's like, they're all good. They're all going to get the job done that you need, to be honest. But yeah, no, it was actually an interesting education. Like, it was a lot of like practical hands-on stuff, which is actually really cool. And what I think most education should be a lot more of, right? It's like, if you're going to like study, world history, it's like, well, a lot of your stuff should be like observing historical artifacts and like taking trips to like historical places where crazy stuff happened, and listening to people talk that are like historians that like know a ton about, like listening to experts and just really putting yourself in that, like, just, I don't know, just like taking in all that information, but like getting your hands dirty too, right? Like, really, I don't know. I think anything you can kind of do that. You can get into, and then writing a lot of papers or something probably, right? Like, just generating your own material, not just reading stuff, but like, but yeah, with film, the equivalent of that is, right, is like getting a camera out and actually filming something and like putting it together, editing it, and like making things, right? That was what Kirkwood was really good with. But yeah, that I eventually, was going to like transfer to some other school, right? So I transferred to like out of state though, I obviously, like, the whole problem with out of state tuition, I already mentioned, right? Like, I wanted to avoid that. But in this case, it was like, I was going to be able to get in-state tuition after like 1 year. And I was like, okay, well, that's not as bad. And it was still less expensive than like going to a proper film school, because it was just like a regular like state school. And I just wanted to get out of Iowa, so I left and went to Murray State. And then I studied theater there. And, it's kind of like the poor man's way of doing it, right? I was like, well, I'm not going to go to this expensive film school. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do theater, and I'm going to study acting and actors. And then by knowing more about acting, I'll know better how to direct actors, right? Which actually I still think is like a pretty interesting strategy. It's like, that's not a bad way to go. But yeah, I just learned I just hate having to rely on other people. And I was like, I don't need to. Eventually I was like, you know what I want to do instead is I want to start a band. But then, like, the same thing, right? It's like, well, you have to find people to do a band, to start a band with. And then also you have to like rely, like, I found someone who I became friends with someone. I thought like I wanted to like, she was going to be like a vocalist for this band, right? I was like, all right, yeah, this will be cool. But then, like, even before we even found other bandmates, I had to like try to rely on her and making her schedule work. And like, she wasn't always like, available and whatever. And it's like, you know what, this is crazy. I'm really going to do that? Like, nah. And so I just kind of like threw that off too. And I was like, yeah, eventually, yeah, you end up in comedy, right? You end up where you're doing stuff by yourself. You're like, I don't need anybody. You know what I need to do comedy? And you know what I need to do this podcast, right? A microphone and a way of projecting the audio signal, like getting the audio signal from the microphone and projecting it so people can hear you. That's all I need, right? All I need is this XLR cable that goes into this recording device, and it just picks up my voice. That's all I need. And to do my sets, all I need is to just have a microphone, and then I talk into it, and it comes out some speakers, and everyone in the room can hear me. That's all I need. I don't need other people. And that's a lot like better of a way of going about things. Do it solo. If you can do anything solo, you are going to have an easier time because people are a pain in the fucking ass. Okay, this is for real going to be the end now. I don't have anything else to say. We've been rambling for a while. Again, check me out, Floodwater Comedy Festival on Friday, April 28th, late night bits at Deadwood. It's a bar called Deadwood. We're going to do comedy, right? It's going to be a fun time. Oh, and then also, I haven't really announced this on social media really yet, because I was still like trying to figure out the lineup and the details, but we are doing a show at the Lucky Cat on, what's the date? See, this is exclusive info right now. On May 23rd, May 27th, there we are. Saturday, May 27th at the Lucky Cat. We are going to do a benefit show to raise money for people that were affected by the severe weather in March. We're going to donate to probably the Red Cross. I was looking into we'll probably just donate to the local Red Cross chapter or whatever it is. Most of the money, the ticket sales money is going to go to that, other than the small cut that Haley's going to have to take to make it financially viable for her, obviously. But yeah, kudos to Haley for hosting it at the Lucky Cat. I was willing to do it wherever, right? If I had to do a freaking park and collect people's cash to do that'd be weird actually doing it at a park and be like, I know we're outside in public space right now, but pay money to me to listen to this. No, I would have probably ended up doing it at Joystick or somewhere, but my first choice was Lucky Cat. I was like, it'd be cool to do this at Lucky Cat, and she was on board immediately. So, we're going to do that benefit show on May 27th. It should be fun. I do have some people. I'll announce soon. Once I'm still asking around trying to figure out who's available, because I've asked a couple people that aren't available, so they're just not going to be able to do it. But I do have a couple people that are confirmed. I think that are doing it for sure at this point. And then there's probably going to be a couple more people that I'm going to end up adding on there. But I'll announce the lineup to that, sometime soon on social media. You know where to find me. All right. This has been fun. I'm going to go back home, and I don't know what I'm going to do, but it's going to be fun, I hope. And I hope you have fun, dear listener. All right. Later.